everybody, it's Dr. Dady from the Center for Health and Healing. And today I have a special, amazing guest that I can't wait to introduce you to. It's Heather Sandy. And she's recently married and recently has a new baby. So
Yay.
today our topic is peptides, and she's an expert in peptides. So Heather, tell our audience, your background, how you got started in peptides, but your background.
Yeah. So thank you for having me, Dr. Dady. I'm so excited to have met you and your community and know what you're doing for the space. So we're thankful you're here. Again, I'm Heather Sandy recently, and my background is I'm a physician assistant in anesthesia, practiced for many years. I grew up in a very medical household of PA as a mother and an orthopedic surgeon as a stepfather, and was just trained to keep my head down and learn the traditional routes of medicine. And after 2020, found myself very unhappy in that space. As you can imagine, leading up to that time, it was just kind of cold, long days in the OR, not a lot of sunlight, not a lot of natural remedies, everybody talking about how everything outside of pharmaceuticals and surgeries was more woo-woo or not right, and you were called crazy if you thought that way. But my internal system was screaming at me and telling me that everything in this space was wrong. And so in 2020, right before COVID hit, I actually fully exited, not knowing that COVID was on the horizon, and the rug was pulled. So left with no job, no backup plan, no way to practice anesthesia because, when the world stopped, it was you couldn't really work PRN, and found myself asking a lot of questions about how I could use our own body to heal itself, and thus fell into regenerative medicine, which essentially peptides and stem cell fall into that category, and I became obsessed. And so here we are. But I started using peptides on myself first, and I was married with two kids at the time, and was just really unhappy in, so many ways. Like I was saying, it was just burning the candle at both ends. And tried my first peptide. I tried IGF-1, and it literally felt like the lights turned on in my brain. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know why it was an injection. I had never heard of what a peptide was, even in PA school or practicing medicine. No one had ever talked about these. And I was like, why do I all of a sudden feel like myself? Why does this feel icky, but it's not? Like, if it's natural, then why is it like with a syringe? What does all this mean? And but for the first time in my life, I felt like my cortisol levels dropped. I felt like I was able to get some quality sleep. I felt like I was able to maintain some muscle because I was 33 at the time, and someone just told me that I needed testosterone, which was like completely the wrong way to go about it. My testosterone was low because I was stressed, not because I needed more testosterone, right? And so yeah, that's how I got started. And then just started helping other clinics get peptides up and running. We have a B2C side as well where we run peptides, but mostly our goal is to really help clinics feel strong and empowered on what they are providing for their clients. And so.
How did you come up with Revive being the name? I love that name, Revive,
Thank
for your
you.
company.
Yeah, so Revive with Me was born because the goal is that you're reviving your health, revive, return to consciousness. And so whether that's spiritual, physical, or mental, those are the three pillars, and that's where that kind of was born.
You plugged in. I've been practicing 30 years, and I started out, so I've been an athlete my whole life, the Olympics in 84, then I bodybuilt for 25 years, so lots of stress on the body. But when I started practicing, I kept looking around going, I'm just sending patients out. I don't want to send patients out. I want to be able to help them wholly, like whole body wellness. So that's when I started on my naturopathic way, my natural medicine. And so I call it healing and peeling with patients. I get them in the office. We do an hour exam, but then we start peeling back the layers. I do labs. And so we're looking at everything and we're peeling back until we get to no more cellular dysfunction or disease. And me, myself, I am getting older. And I think I would say that getting older is the worst thing to happen to me, if I can say that, right? Your ego is crushed. you have to face it. But peptides were the thing that helped me. I got sick with mold. I don't detox mold well. So that turned me on to peptides and my injuries. When I want to go do something, go to the gym, or and if I have a slight inflammation in the muscle or something, I use the peptides. It's been so amazing. So I wanted to pair those tools. I needed more tools in my toolbox. I always want to have more answers for patients, get them to their optimum health. And I was looking out there and I'm like, I read one of the peptide books and like, no, this isn't going to work. I need somebody that knows what they're doing. And
Mhm.
I'm trying to remember how, oh, I met your husband at an event.
Yeah, volleyball.
Yes, it was an event that I was at. And he was so wonderful. And I was talking to him. He goes, you have to meet my wife. And then, of course, months went by and I said, I remember him. And he said his wife really was the corner of their business. So that's how I actually came upon, met you. So
Yeah.
it's been wonderful. Really, you're consulting with us and you've come up with those wonderful, like, you looked at my practice and things that I need. For me, I see a lot of menopausal women that you restore their health, but the bottom line is if you're not making estrogen, you're going to have bone loss and heart disease. You're losing muscle. So adding the muscle package that you did for me, helping and the stacking is great. So that's what you said to me. Hey, you need to stack them to work. Like I see all these people losing weight, but they lose a lot of muscle. And you're like, well, if you add this, they're not going to lose muscle while they're losing weight. So that
Yeah.
was really impressive. And that started me on this journey of adding peptides to my toolbox. So now it's really complete. I can really look at a patient. Now, one of the big things for me, and I know that it's really wonderful to listen to your story because how you evolved into like, I don't want to pill for a problem without a solution. And that's really where we are medically and insurance delegating patients' care. So being able to watch a patient start from ground zero, I call it, and rebuild their health and have the ability to plug in peptides when it's time because I love to make sure their lifestyle has changed. Their thinking, eating, moving differently is how I really say it. And I love to see that transformation. Hormone peptide. The wonderful part about this is I do DNA testing and I plug that in so I know which ones will work for them and won't work for them. And
Yeah.
that's been a game changer in the practice. Now, could you explain to the audience, like, what is a peptide? Like,
Yeah.
what is the peptide?
Yeah, and just to add on to what you were saying too, like in the OR, I felt like my job was just to keep patients alive, but with peptides, it's really to help them live. It's
Yes.
such a different, it's like your whole body. And
I love
so the power of peptides is that they're just short chains of amino acids. So our body is already naturally producing them. There's actually over 7,000 naturally occurring peptides in our body. So science really found a way to synthesize them, and then we're just like constantly adding new ones and testing out how do they work. Now, most peptides are polypeptides, meaning they work over multiple processes in our bodies at the same time. And the best way I describe it to patients is look, if we want to renovate your kitchen, which is what we're doing with your body,
I
we
love
don't want to just do the floors or we don't want to just do the counters or the appliances. We want to do kind of everything at the same time. And that's the power of stacking multiple peptides. So some peptides are your floors, right? Some are your counters, some are your appliances, some are the walls or the chandeliers, the lighting fixtures, right? We're never going to try and stack on like, oh, I'm doing your floors like three different types of floors. No, we're going to do different things that do different processes in your body at the same time. And that's really the powerful part of them. Most peptides are mimicking that process. So say they're like helping release your natural growth hormone levels. Some peptides mimic other processes in your body and make that part last longer. So GLP-1s, glucagon like peptide is actually just lengthening the time that the GLP-1 receptor is already happening in your body. So instead of it being a few moments, it's a few hours or a few days or a week, right? Even. So certain peptides do different things, but what I love about them is, they're incredibly safe, super effective. And usually the worst thing that happens is they don't work for you like they work for me. You just have to stick the course because there will be over time that kind of like, okay, we get a little bit more notice in that sleep change, or we get a little bit more notice in your mitochondrial health. And so the longer you're on them, the more that engine kind of revs and your body will more naturally produce it. So for 4 years leading up to this recent pregnancy, I was on peptides and changing out different ones I was on. I was able to get pregnant naturally, whereas the other 2 pregnancies I had with my previous marriage, I was using fertility medicine because I had PCOS. And so this one,
A
first time,
specialty.
yeah, you know, just like no regular period, would have no idea when it was coming, 56-day cycles on and off. And I was in my 20s. I was like, what's going on? Why is it like this? And then with my most recent one, I had 28-day cycles, like to the day, 36 years old, or 37 actually. Find out I was pregnant like immediately, which people say is like a lot harder as you get older, which was not. I had the easiest pregnancy, obviously stopped the peptides during the pregnancy. But as soon as I had her on the bedroom floor at our house and had like nothing wrong. Like absolutely bounced right back, feel amazing. And it's just been such a blessing because I think I was on peptides for so long. So it's not like when you stop taking them, you lose the effects of them. It's just that when you stop taking them, you're not really getting the benefits any further. But the longer you're on them, the more they kind of build up in your system and give you that better picture of health.
Well, I love how you described it. So what I describe to patients is, okay, you come in and maybe your house is semi-burnt down. So we're going to start with the foundation, which is your gut. Make sure it's not inflamed, you don't have dysbiosis, and so on and so forth. PCOS, I'm thinking about what you said. Small intestinal bowel overgrowth, and we have to clean up liver, gallbladder. Support the adrenal glands that talk to the thyroid, that talk to the hypothalamus and pituitary. So it's all these rhythms I'm doing, right? Everything you're saying, I do through herbs and whole foods, and then change lifestyle and all. So understanding that there's so many peptides and when to put them in and have them work has been a game changer for patients. And the injections, when people say, well, why did you choose that? They're quicker. They work, but you're injecting them, right? They work pretty quick. They're availability, really. Yep. To get that patient moving in a positive and great, in a great direction. And so they're already feeling results right away. Now, I want to talk about the 4 packages that you did for me too, the weight loss, metabolism reset. And that is about blood sugar, energy, and fat loss. And then the muscle building restoration was restoring muscle tone and getting rid of inflammation. Then the one dear to my heart, because I was sick with mold for so long, and the mold and toxin recovery. And that's been it's been a very popular one because we are full of toxins, and the more DNA I do, the more I see so many patients cannot detox well their cells. So I say to someone, I'll take an example. You're drinking a lot of water, but you're dehydrated because you're not bringing sodium in, and sodium brings water into the cell. If you have toxins in the cell, they're not moving out. We're not getting you healthy if I can't restore cells, right? If we can't clean them up. And if they're sluggish, what do we do? NAC, glutathione, like what are you doing? So using this helps to get all of that moving as we're restoring their immune system. So I loved using the mold recovery. My one patient that I put on the mold recovery, I think it was, I have them on herbs and stuff also. But the first week she calls me up and says, should I have parasites coming out? I'm like, well, yeah, that's some of the stuff we did. And feel good and have energy? Well, yeah. Some people, you'll see they'll come in and they're very enthusiastic and they do well. And the other ones that are like, no, I don't know. They might take a little longer because, between your ears is just as hard to train as is taking new supplements and
totally
diet. Mm-hmm. And then the longevity one. So my heart was here. When I was 30 and I was practicing, I had no business talking to 60-year-old women, telling them, they should be running, they should be doing this and this. You do not know what it's like to be that until you're that. So I look back and go, wow, it was really an epiphany for me to think about what I would be telling people to do, not realizing the limitations. So I loved the longevity in my practice to use for patients. I'm like, to give them their energy back and get them feeling like they're not staying in line for a prescription that costs hundreds of dollars and they're not getting better and they feel worse. and they're not maintaining anything, so that was a game changer. And how did you come up with some of these with me, and why did you start stacking peptides?
Yeah, truly. I mean, it's game changing. I was just pulling up a message I got this morning from a woman where she told me like that one of the peptides in the mold toxicity stack that she was on, she was like, it was the biggest game changer post-surgery. She said she felt a major shift in her body within just 3 weeks, and she felt more like herself than years. I've had Lyme disease patients 4 years, of like no answers, no answers, no answers. We put them on like one round of your mold detox protocol.
Mm.
And they literally have been like, oh my God, like finally I don't feel sick. Finally, I have energy to do things. And it's crazy, but it's not, because we're just targeting the inflammatory response. And that's really what peptides are doing, because they're just those small amino acid chains. They are unstable, which is why they don't do as well going into the gut, right? Our gut is super
Right.
thick, the lining. We don't want all that bacteria in our bloodstream. So of course it's thick on purpose. But when we ingest peptides, they don't really pass that barrier very well. And so that's why they usually end up being a sub-Q injection, a nasal spray, or a troche, which is like, you know, um, something that you just place in your cheek or under your tongue. So it gets absorbed. But, when you take it that way, your body actually knows what to do with it because it's in its most basic form. So it's not having to go through all this process of breaking it down further and then finding a way to use it, which we see all the time in these, you know, crap collagen, supplements, not the ones that you and I talk about and use, but there's just so much out there that's like, oh, get it this way. And it's like, but your body has to further break it down to use it. It's like, well, why are you lacking collagen in the first place?
Well,
Um,
yes, but you just touched on something really important that I tell patients, listen, I'm putting these supplements on my website for a reason, because if you go to a certain place and buy supplements, I don't know if they're making them in their bathroom. Like, you do
exactly.
not know what you're getting. One of the reps came in and he said they bought products. I think it was like liquid vitamin D off certain platforms they bought them. And they were just water. They tested them, they were just water. But what about the ones that are
Wow.
harmful? That's another reason why I align myself with you, because you have third party testing. There's a lab here that I'm getting them from. I can trust them, and then also I have an MD that I can talk to if I'm having issues with things too. We can, because I know you're connected to him, and it works out so perfect, because then I'm not lost going, where's that book that I was reading peptides about, right? And then he told me one thing also, 8 week, do start with the 8 week plan, then you want to reevaluate, see where they are. And so I like that. So tell me about um, to explain to patients. Now I can, but you explain to them about you get the peptides in, they are in powder. We reconsolidate. I've talked to too much today. I can't talk. And then the safety, and then talk a little bit about, I found in the DNA what patients shouldn't have certain peptides, but they can have other peptides. But just maybe talk a little bit about that kind of thing.
Yeah, what's beautiful about the process we set up for you and how you're doing things is it's being done the right way. There are peptides available online that you can buy that tend to be for research use only. That usually means that the powders are sourced from another country and then maybe being flown in. Sometimes it means that they're not third party tested. Sometimes they're third party tested internally, which doesn't really mean third party testing, right?
Right.
So, what's beautiful about the peptides we've sourced and we work with are that they are all third party lab tested. You can pull up the certificate to ensure the purity and the accuracy of the compound, and that there is nothing else in there, no heavy metals, right? There is
Mhm.
a quality product inside there, and that you're getting the milligrams that is stated on the vial, because, like you said, some of these places could say it's 10 milligrams or 20 milligrams and it's water. So you want people to feel it, and that's where the whole process comes in place. So when they first come in, we'll do a wellness quiz or a little quiz to say, hey, which peptides maybe work best for you? And it's through some logic behavior of like, I'm feeling low on libido or high on energy or low on muscle gain that will determine which stack that they fall into or which peptide. The stack is created to be synergistic. So again, kind of like renovating that kitchen example, we would stack a muscle building peptide with something that's also going to give you some recovery for your joints because we know if you're in the gym that you're going to be pumping some iron. You probably need some decrease in inflammatory response. And so those two peptides or four peptides will go really well together. With the mold detox, thymosin alpha 1 is a great one, but adding in another detox for the inflammatory response all over your body, like a KPV, is really good. So we start blending peptides in a certain way, and that's how we built out your programs. And then 8 weeks is really the magic spot. Also, I mean, we could go to 12, but most people, for affordability or they just want to getting their feet wet, we say at least 8 weeks is really where you want to be before you transition to another set of peptides. And then the dosing, how we worked it out with you is that each month they're on that same protocol and then they do it again the next month and then they switch it up. So it makes it super easy for them. They get all the peptides at once, bring them home and are taught how to self-inject, really easily.
Got the
And
videos. We got the videos.
yeah, we got the videos, which is great because everybody's like, where do I put this? It's scary, right? Like
Right, right.
we're shown videos like horror films of people injecting a bubble and dying,
Oh,
or
yeah.
like heroin addicts on the street. That's like what we're up against, but
Yeah.
that's not at all what this is. This is a small, very tiny Botox needle that people actually can put in their eye if they are into that kind of thing, right? Like where they're
It's little
getting,
I use. It's not milligram. I mean, it's so it's really
yep,
good. Yeah.
it's
And
just this very, very small needle, and you can put it just right in your belly, your glute, your arm, or your thigh. And it's just once a day. I'm honestly like, I take my supplements as well. And I'm like, God, can't all of them be in an injectable form? It just makes,
it makes life so easy. It would, oh my
yeah,
goodness, if you saw what I take every day.
yeah.
Because so now when a patient comes in, they get the box, I put the syringes in there, I reconstitute. And what that means is that they're sent to me in a
Yep.
little powder. You were talking about the powder. And then we set it up for them so great because we reconstitute it. So we're putting the solution in there and getting it ready. So when they take it home, they have it ready to go. Because can you imagine you go online and you don't know anything about peptides and you're buying who knows what. And then how do you know how much to take? Like I remember when I first started, I was online like trying to find how or how much or what. And it was all kinds of stuff all over the place. And then I bought this peptide book. And then I'm looking through that just for myself to see like how much and why. And when I put it in the DNA and it told me these are not ones that you should be taking. So for you, me saying I put it in the DNA and I knew, what would be a flag for you if someone comes to you and they want to do peptides and you're like, oh, I don't think, honestly, we're saying flags. My only flag was the DNA because we're making these amino acids, right? In a
Yeah.
body. So would you really, you could always, I love that you can just find a different peptide for them. Is that kind of right?
Totally. Yeah. There's a few I'll say like hard stop
Contraindication.
contraindications.
Okay.
If they're like have an active cancer or it's very recent
That's
cancer,
true.
usually we'll pause on most peptides just because, you don't really know what's going on in the body and it's really hard to pinpoint like what causes what.
And then pregnancy,
Yeah,
obviously.
pregnancy, obviously, but still can take vitamins,
Right.
injectable vitamins or
Right.
aminos, great. And then breastfeeding moms, we just don't know which ones. Although I will tell you for breastfeeding moms, me in particular, I've been doing oxytocin nasal spray, which has been fantastic. Or you can just take it as an injectable. And that's helping my milk supply. It's helping with any postpartum baby blues, which
Okay.
feels really good. Also just making me feel more in my body. And then you can microdose a GLP-1 because the GLP-1 molecule is actually large enough where it doesn't go into the breast milk. Now that's great because regulating your insulin levels postpartum feels really good after this
Good.
like wonky, crazy pregnancy. And I love that I'm not like stressed about postpartum. Like, do my boobs don't fit anything. Like the last thing I want is to feel bloated and insulin misregulated and inflamed. And it's really helping decrease my inflammation while I'm going through this postpartum period. And I can't tell you how different I feel postpartum. Like I just am like being much softer on my body. I'm not obsessing about working out because I just want to get back in my clothes. Like
Right.
I'm bonding with the baby. I'm not worried about my milk supply. Like I'm like, wow, we could have 10 kids.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay, if it works this way. And you know what?
yeah.
It could be a misconception of people about the GLP-1s because, you know, not everyone that is obese is the only people that can be on GLP-1s. And
Yes.
I can take me, for instance. So we talk about getting older and ego. And I have never not had a six pack in my whole life. And I've never not, been muscular. And that was my thing. I call it my armor, right? And so now I'm like, adrenally, and because I had the mold problem, it dysregulated all my hormones. I have them back now, but estradiol, which is made by your adrenals, it's not great, but I know I can't take it. So just using a little I like you talked about microdosing. So
Yes.
you're like, okay, that's where I think people went wrong. They're not losing weight fast enough and they keep dosing it up. And I see a red flag if someone comes in and their whole idea, the patients, I never take patients like this. They come in and they're like, I just want to lose weight. I said, as you get healthy, you will lose weight.
Yes.
So, if you want to do like, you can't even digest food. You have reflux, you have heavy clotty bleeding, you're depressed, and you're worried about weight. Weight isn't going to change all of those things. Like we have to work in that whole area. So the flag for me is that one stop patient that just wants to lose weight. And that's all they want to do is lose weight. I'm like, okay, we can do that, but let me teach you about how to eat better. Because
Yeah.
you lose weight and then you stop taking them and you go back to what you did. The habits and all of that kind of stuff.
Totally. And I mean, it's such a lifestyle shift. Like we want that catalyst to help people get onto the right track, because the problem that can happen is a lot of women will get our hormones misregulated from usually stress, right? We put all this undue pressure on ourselves. We're taking care of everybody around us. We're fighting for our business, we're fighting for our family, we're fighting for everyone else, and we forget to focus on us.
That's right. That's right.
And then we get to our late 30s and we're like, wait, what happened? Why do I feel
Hey,
so like,
you're like, okay, stay in there. You'll love
and,
that part.
and
Late
then
30s.
later, but it gets worse and worse, right? I'm saying
Yeah,
that's where
not
it kind of
better.
starts.
Not better.
And
Yeah.
then it just keeps going. And so they show up and they're like, man, I'm getting a little belly fat, but I'm not eating, but I'm focused on this. And so what I love about peptides is it really gets us off that trajectory. When our cells are under
Exactly.
stress, they
Mm-hmm.
use
Mm-hmm.
energy instead of oxygen, and almost like 32 times the amount of energy, right? If you're like looking at the Krebs.
Under your ATP. Oh, yeah, there's wonderful
Yeah.
things about it. Yeah.
Exactly. So they're tired, they don't want to work out, and they're gaining weight, and it's just this negative feedback loop. And I look at like peptides, especially GLP-1s, as like a way to get on that positive feedback loop. But you have to make better choices on that new loop. Okay, now I'm going to move more because I have better energy. I'm going to get better sleep and take this nice trajectory for where it can go. And I just want to touch on GLP-1s because they do get just such a bad rap,
Yes.
because um, I believe that when they were, first launched by the FDA, it was kind of an accident. Like, right, they meant to create this drug for people to regulate their insulin levels, but they saw that the side effect was weight loss, and everybody's like, "What?
Ah,
There's a weight loss magic drug?" What?
magic.
And yeah, yeah, it is. But the way that they created the dosing guidelines was for type 2 diabetics with multiple comorbidities, which means that, right, they have high blood pressure, kidney disease, any cardiovascular disease, plus,
Cholesterol, high cholesterol. Yeah.
yeah, OSA, sleep apnea, all this stuff. And so they're upping the dose every 4 weeks. Take more, take more, take more, take more, because you're looking at like this standard patient. Now you take it for your 40-year-old, 42-year-old female that's just having a little bit of weight gain, insulin misregulation. She doesn't need that dose. She doesn't need to increase her dose every 4 weeks and go on this huge trajectory, or she's going to lose her muscle. She's going to lose her hair. She's going to have all these bad side effects because she's not that type 2 diabetic with multiple comorbidities. So she doesn't need to be dosed in that way. And so what I love about peptides and the way that you're doing it is that you can microdose it. You can take these really small doses that will help regulate your inflammation everywhere, because there's not just GLP-1 receptors in our gut and in our brain to tell us we're no longer hungry or we're full faster. These GLP-1 receptors exist in our lungs, in our kidneys, in our liver, in our muscles to decrease our inflammation all over our body. And that is the number one thing I hear from people is, oh my God, why did I get a random period spotting? Why am I feeling less puffy? And I'm like, your whole body system is now being regulated because we're on a GLP-1. And it's beautiful to see when it's done in the right way because people just literally like, insulin misregulation is like,
About PCOS. PCOS.
yep,
That I
people
mean,
with
it's like
Hashimoto's.
the amazing changer of PCOS. Like to do that. Like I've now that's what I use with PCOS. I was using I was doing adrenal support. I was doing the tonic, so I mix herbs and inositol, and and then reconnect and hypothalamus pituitary. Now that my first thing is adding the GLP-1s because that's
Yeah.
it's blood sugar that is really one of those things that start the decline.
The amount of women I've had that were told me they could not get pregnant
Oh gosh.
and then got
Uh-huh.
pregnant
Yeah.
because of a GLP-1 is insane. I've been
Oh,
invited to
I'd
so
love to
many
see
baby
that.
showers, which is
Oh,
like so beautiful because they're like, thank you for my baby. Like, and I'm just like, wow, like it's like happy medicine. It feels so
right,
good. Um,
right.
or moms that like, their daughter is getting married. It's their like they have one of my clients has four daughters and she's like one of them was getting married and she's like, I feel so hot and sexy at this wedding. I haven't felt this good since high school. Like, she's just like just glowing in her photos. And she's like, do you want to come to the wedding? I'd love to come, because she has not felt this good in her body in so long.
You can't take that for granted. You can't take that.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. They like are just like I got pictures from Taylor Swift concert, like them in their like hot dress that they haven't worn in 10 years. And so but it's beyond the vanity play because it's not just that they look good, it's that they literally feel like themselves again for the first time in a really long time. And we're so quick to say, like, well, that's expensive, or it's not covered by insurance, or it's
Yeah.
not. But what is your value on you?
Yeah,
Like,
it's covered by
what
insurance anyway. I mean, I feel like sometimes it's a Ponzi scheme.
it
And
is.
to hit on something you said, so think back. I'm thinking about you. You're managing. You're taking your peptides, but when you start at your age, are you going to feel that way when you're 60? No, you're
I
not.
don't think so.
So you're preventing, right? Because I can in the DNA, I tell people the primary cause of their decline in their health, but I also say it's a train coming down the track, and I'm going to teach you how to step off of it. The DNA
Yes.
gives me that tool. So when we have those tools and we apply the peptides, and you're doing, all the other stuff that we do with patients, it gives them a for the rest of their life, they will have answers and tools to stay healthy, be healthy, feel better. So the peptide just is like that cherry on top because it supports men, women, aging patients, athletes, people with chronic disease. So
Yeah.
it's such it's so big. You can like that's what I love that I went in. I'm like, oh, they have this is going on, and we can use this instead of that, and it's very versatile when you're dealing with a whole slew of diseases and illnesses.
And I always look at it like, the train of aging is moving, like you're
Oh
saying.
yes. Mm-hmm.
So sometimes, like, we have to correct course a little more. Like, say a stressor comes in, like a family member passes away, unfortunately, or we lose a job, or a child gets sick, or anything, right? Like, it's common that, like, we have to do a little bit more to, like, help slow that train down or get
Right.
it back on track.
Mhm, mhm.
But peptides are here to kind of be like, you don't just stop washing your face once your face looks clear. You don't stop going to the gym once your body looks the way you want. You have to maintain it,
Then I'm
right?
going to get healthy and then I'm going to go back to McDonald's. No.
It makes no sense. Like we have to maintain these things. And it's like, we're not saying like you have to keep this heavier stack, but to keep some of these here, it's really beneficial and it just feels good. Like I don't know why we wouldn't invest in ourselves. And that's always what bothers me the most is I'll have women get so excited and we do a consultation and we get right there and then they're like, "Oh, but it's like it's a lot of money." And I'm like, "It's $100 a week. It's maybe a little more, maybe a little less, but that's really not that bad. Like that's probably what you spend on Uber Eats delivery fees." You
So,
know,
so,
it's
so
what-
to talk about that real quickly, I had a patient with ulcerative colitis and they went to one emergency visit for $20,000. And I'm like, and so then I worked with him, autoimmune, of course, and then he's better. And we're talking about 3 months later, and then how much, I mean, when you get really sick and you're older, you pay anything to feel.
anything.
So when you start putting money there, that's when you're like, oh, this person isn't really serious because you know what it costs to stay healthy, you know what? That's what you should be paying. You're paying health insurance. You should be paying health insurance healthy. So to stay healthier, you have to insure your own health. You can't depend on health insurance to insure your health. It is not built like that. It's for sick people. It's not for healthy people.
And they'll say you have 99 problems until you have a health problem, and then you have one problem, right?
And then you get lots. Yeah.
And it's crazy. Like I was talking about this the other day, like what other business in the world, like do you have to have when you're born? You have to have when you die. You pay for it monthly, your whole life. And then you have no idea when you're going to use it. It doesn't add up in some bank.
No.
Like it's just like this never ending, you have a deductible on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you go to the doctor, you don't even know what you're paying when you leave. You have no idea what bill is going to show up for you. But here it is, like we can offer all these solutions for you, supplements, peptides, wellness, testing ahead of the game. You know exactly what you're getting. It biologically is changing something in your body for the better. We are actually improving your health. Unlike when you go to the medical system, you have no idea if what they're doing is truly going to help you, because by the time you usually go there, you're just trying to fix a problem that's already existing.
Well, I talked to this guy sells insurance in my business group. And I spoke with him today because he stood up and said, well, 60,000, I'm just throwing this number, I forget what it is, 60,000 people are going to lose health insurance. And afterwards I said, I wanted to address that with you. He goes, yeah. I said, 60,000 people that was sold a Ponzi scheme. Because if you're talking about the same insurance that I'm talking about, they increased it to 400%. So if someone made 60,000 or 80,000, they didn't qualify. But now, 4 years ago, they changed it to 400%. So you can make $200,000 and only pay $80 a month for insurance. But everything you do, nothing's paid for. Nothing.
Everything. I know.
So they don't pay for anything with that so-called great insurance. So now people are going to actually have to get health insurance, pay for it. But if you use it when you need it, because it's just like car insurance, right? You don't use it till you don't use it till you need it, right? And health insurance, the thing about it that gets me is they're always talking about health insurance. It doesn't insure health. And there's so much sickness around it. And the bad part about this is all these pharmaceutical companies are pay people off. They're making all this money and keeping you sick, because the only way they make money is keeping you sick. And that's so sad. That's so sad.
If you take a pill for the rest of your life for your thyroid, unlike supplement that supports your thyroid, that actually helps fix it, or peptides that help also fix it, then there's no money to be made. And we're not saying you have to take these forever.
Right.
Like I have plenty of people that say, wow, like my inflammation's down. I'm off my thyroid meds. Like, thank you. Like, do I have to stay on this peptide? I'm like, not necessarily. We could switch it up. If you want to go back to it, because then all of a sudden your thyroid needs support, we can. But by no means are we saying like all of this stuff has to be done the rest of your life, right? Like we're here to enhance your body's natural process. And that's what kills me about the system and why I walked away. But, my stepdad still doesn't, to this day, like doesn't talk to me, because it's like bone, fix it, oxycodone, like, antibiotics, like all the things that like, that's what we're taught in school. And that's what I learned at, I went to Emory for PA school, and that's what they're taught there. Like I was never taught how stem cells worked, how peptides worked, how supplements work.
They don't teach health. They don't tell even nutrition. They don't even
teach to go outside. Yeah. Mm-hmm. How about natural sunlight and just touch the earth? No one talks about that.
No, that doesn't make money for them. Okay.
It doesn't,
And peptides are the future regenerative wellness. I mean, it is our future. Because the FDA tried to squash this for a while. They didn't want you to use peptides. So I'm glad that
we're rising above. There's enough loud people now that are like, stop.
We're allowed to be loud now. Isn't that something?
It's great.
I am so grateful that you took the time with your new baby, and you could take the time to talk to everybody and, really explain very thoroughly how beneficial peptides are. And, if patients want to schedule, they can just go to drdady.com. And today, because if you mention, Heather, Sandy, and Dr. Dady, it's the 20% off I'm giving you for your first protocol that you buy from me. So
it's amazing. Yay,
so I'm doing 20% off. Healing from the inside out is natural, safe, and effective. So think about that when you're thinking about, how do I want to change my health? What is the best place to start? It would be talking to Dr. Dady or Heather, Sandy, and you have an amazing day. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in and taking the time to listen, and most appreciative of Heather taking the time out today to educate us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dady. It's always a pleasure.